Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead.
You telling them that the banks aren't lending. I don't like that. Because if I had lied, as Tom Dell told me, or some 35 years ago, you'd be the first trillionaire in the world. This is 30 years ago. But they are not lending to new entities, and that's true. They want existing entities. So, I mean, you can twist that any way you want. But the news they get on CBS or NBC or CNN is the banks, all they hear is the banks aren't lending. So you use that to your benefit. The next thing is that which is pretty obvious for those of you that have had a seller's note or a seller finance, is if the business doesn't operate as was projected for you, you don't make the payment. It's simple as that. But that has to be written in the covenants. It's not that you lose the asset. And we're not going to talk about it now, but there's asset lending and there's cash flow lending. We're cash flow borrowers. In other words, the assets, underlying assets that he alluded to, have to be producing cash flow, otherwise there's no purchase. But we're basically cash flow lenders, or borrowers, excuse me. We're cash flow. Because there's plenty of assets, and you were talking about turnarounds, there's plenty of stuff that, you turn around, got a lot of assets, but they're not producing any fucking cash flow. We pass on those. That's not to say you can't come around later to scoop them up, but initially, your first few deals have to stand on their own feet. And one of the, and I'm getting ahead of myself when I talk about non-recourse, but when the banker says, well, we want you on the line. And part of your scripts, when you went to them, begin with, in the warming up phase, we will never bring you a deal that doesn't cash flow. We'll never bring you a deal that doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. That was when you warmed them up. Now you're back with the deal, right? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever it is later. And he said, well, we'll need your signature. I said, well, how did the deal look yesterday? You looked at the number? It looked fine. So if I died yesterday, the deal still looks fine, right? What does my signature add? Now that's a tough question for them to answer, other than if they're really honest with you, they'll say, well, I need some, I got to ask the question. The real deal is, kids, they have to ask the question. They don't have to get the answers they want. And that's what you don't understand. You think because they ask you the question and because they're steering you in a direction for an answer, you think that's the answer. It isn't the answer. Banking regulations, both in America and in Britain, dictate you have to ask the question. Banking regulations don't say, even in Romania or Bulgaria, Estonia, that you have to answer it positively. But they lead you down that path. And they lead you down that path they have scripts just like you have scripts. And once you understand the mechanics, every dollar that's deposited in a bank is lent out between 20 and 50 times, depending on the balance sheet of the bank. If they're in America, whether they're a state bank or a federal bank, it's the same around the world. So they have to get money. And now that it's more or less accepted isn't the right word, but I can't think of the right word, that Corona's going to be around a while. And not that V that everybody talked about that was fucking, ludicrous. The banks, if they don't get money out the door, and I'm not talking about the government money yet. If they don't get money out the door, they're not going to get any Christmas bonuses. Now, why are 75% of all bank loans, commercial bank loans, made the last 120 days of the calendar year? Bonuses. Now, they've got all kinds of bullshit rationale that they try to explain to you that it's not bonuses, but at the end of the fucking day, it's bonuses. It's not a coincidence that all those loans are made at the end of the year. Now, we're coming right up to that end of the year now. So that, on top of Corona, as I sing, I run around the castle saying, do not forsake me, oh Corona, on this. I mean, I love my voice. Nobody else loves my voice. But, because of Corona, they're going to be shoving that fucking They can't shove that shit down your throat fast enough. You know how when you feed, I have never fed a baby, but the two claims to fame, I've only changed one diaper in my life. 3 kids, 2 grandkids, 1 diaper. And I've never fed a baby with you know how you put the food in and you spit it out? They tell me this. I don't know this for a fact. I've never done that. But they're going to be hand feeding you to get loans down your throat. Okay? Now, I did know he gave up. Because, his wife contacted me. I get contacted by children, grandchildren. Mr. Peña, let our father go from the cult. Please, let him go. I swear to you. Let him go. Anyway, I told her it would work out all right, and by God it did. And he's one of the postings I have on social media. On his birthday, they sent me a cake. I've just posted another one. Another guy sent me a picture on his birthday. But he never gave up. He never gave up. He didn't explain to you the structure exactly how it is because he probably doesn't even know. All the things you've wasted I won't say that if none of you were ever born, the world would be a better place, but the world would be a better place if none of you were ever born. Categorically, 100%. Now that's a pretty shitty thing to say, especially when it's true. So all this shit that you learned for nothing. Another thing, and he didn't mention this, and he was a reasonably successful attorney, dealing with reasonably successful people. But for you to buy off on QLA, the QLA model, and become a QLA bot or whatever they call themselves, you have to say that you wasted, let's say, in your case, 5 years of your life, in your case, 25 years of your life, in your case, 20, you have to say you wasted it. And that's, even if you don't say that to yourself on a conscious level, that's a tough motherfucking pill to swallow. Because 2 or 3 of you in this room actually think you're bright. I would totally disagree. But you basically shit your life down. So up to today, you being alive the last whatever year, has anybody made a difference in here? No. In certain parts of the world, it's easier. Now, I told you it was easy. I more or less, I thought pretty sure I knew what he was going to say. But I'm not prompting these guys. They don't have, this is the first time in their life they don't have templates. They don't have scripts. But I knew it was easy. I knew it was easy. And he doesn't complain about his affliction or anything like that. But he thought, because of Corona, and although he still goes and sees some of this stuff, he thought it was a godsend to him because he doesn't have to struggle to get in a car and because he can't get around. He thought Allah, kissed him on the forehead. And now it's not shoe leather. It's those of you that, and I know there are more sophisticated methods other than Skype and Zoom. I know that. I'm not interested in any of them because those are the only 2 I use. But now it's like taking candy from a baby, shooting fish in a barrel. And you're going to hear 12 or 15 or some of these. Yet I look at your face right now. Again, I want a camera up here shooting back because all I see is disbelief. Why do I see disbelief? Yes, sir. Okay, no. I want this question answered. Why? You just heard from the horse's motherfucking mouth mimic 99% of what I told you, right? Was there any difference in what he said and what I've said? Why don't you still believe? No. Because just because this mealy-mouthed, skinny kid here can do it, doesn't mean you can. lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth. And we're going to have a little clip by my old friend, God rest his soul, Jack Welch, who he calls it a different thing. When he started that university, Welsh University in Connecticut or wherever, online university about business. Jack Welch, in my judgment, the greatest CEO in the last 100 years. And he said, it's about self-confidence. He calls it something different. Gets down to the same thing. And once you have self-confidence, and that's why, even though you're here, you know, when we came out with Josh Kim a few years ago, I told you I was so wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong about, I thought that, fuck, people are just going to lap this shit up and, you know, we'll be at 10 trillion overnight. And now Corona's knocked the piss out of most people. Whatever little bit of self-confidence they had, if they had it, it's gone now. And if I'm not careful, I'm going to fall over on my head here. And that's a sad commentary. That's a sad commentary. Now, whereas when, you know, where I came from, you know, guys with no self-confidence didn't live past 14, 15 years old. You got yourself stabbed or shot or beat to death or... Okay, now the question in the back, sir.
He said he's buying assets, so not the entity of the hospitals themselves, right?
Well, in one case, the hospital is an asset, the building.
But he's
he's got machines. But all your acquisitions, now I refrain, I tell you on your first 2 or 3 deals, I refrain from buying property. Why do I don't like you to buy property like a dental office or a doctor's office or a chiropractor's office or, you know, an office? Because let's say that the building is worth $500,000. That building isn't generating into that free cash flow. And to pay for it, you're going to have to pay multiple up. Instead of buying it at 3 times cash flow, because the value of the building is added on top of the purchase price, you're going to have to pay 5 or 6 times cash flow. And most of these hogs won't carry it. And so that's why when we get to structuring the deals, I tell you, you tell the dentist, the doctor, whoever the fuck it is, fine, I'll have an option to buy your building in 3 years from now at some adjusted price. So it makes him feel more comfortable. Another thing you tell them is, which is true when we're not being disingenuous, is you tell them that you owning the building is an additional pension because I'm paying you the rent every night, or not week, whenever you pay the rent. Okay? And then those 2 things ring, and they're, you know. But you don't want a property. You don't want a doctor's office. And of course, they want to unload it. But when you explain it to them, and again, it's in the fucking scripts, it's in the webinars, all the shit is, I mean, you'll learn how to, it's not to get around that, because the seller has a book too. The seller went through a course. How to maximize my assets for retirement. So I know the one jerk that teaches that shit, okay? He has never exited anything in his life, and the only money he's made is putting assets on seminar seats and product online. Yet you go to him. But we want to buy cash flow. We're cash flow. Now, some banks that say they're cash flow lenders are really quasi-pretend cash flow lenders, and they want to tie as many assets. Normally, they want 3 sources of repayment for your loan. No matter if you're a cash flow lender, or borrower, or a asset borrower, they want your signature, you. Okay? They want the business that produces the cash flow, and they want something else. Normally, it's your house. If you have another business, and we're not giving them any of those. And because you're talking to 15, 20, 30 banks, one person saying no, it's like there used to be a place in Manhattan called the Library. It was the meat market of the 70s. If you couldn't get laid in there, it's because you didn't have a dick. It was the motherfucking meat market extraordinaire. Meat meaning tail, pussy. They used to have a buffet as long as this room. Drinks, and this was in the 70s, so drinks were, a call drink, meaning you name the alcohol in your drink, was $1.25, $1.25, not $125, and a regular bar drink was 75 cents. Beers were 50 cents, wine was 50 cents. The food used to be this thick in the buffet. I wonder, well, it's out of business now, but I can just imagine how they corona that up. But anyway, okay. The bar was equally as long, a long bar on this side of the room. Had maybe 50, 60 seats, and then about 100 people would be there because you'd be squeezed in before. You guys, they still, well, maybe not. People still go to bars before corona? And you squeeze in between the seats, right? So instead of 50, 60 seats, there's 100 people at the bar. It's rumored that me in my youth, first of all, this part isn't rumored. I was flat broke. I used to pay $65 a night for my room there. It was also a hotel. They used to call it the bed bug because the cockroaches were that big. And had a sink in your room and one toilet on the floor. Do they still have places like that? Maybe hostels or something, right? And the guys who would piss in the sink, they're not going to get up in the middle of the night and go to fucking, You start at one end of the bar, and normally 3/4 of the people at the bar were women. Okay, but I used to load up my pockets with food from the buffet because I had no money. And I wouldn't want to squeeze next to the fat hogs because then they'd squeeze the sandwiches and the fucking mayonnaise would come out of the sandwiches. And you could see stains on my suits. But I started at one end, allegedly, at one end of the bar, and I would ask every single woman at the bar, you want to blow me in the toilet? You want to blow me in the toilet? And I never, may God strike me dead, got to the other end of the bar without getting 2 or 3 yeses. Never. Now, I don't even consider that balls. When I say I got more ass than a toilet seat at a bus station, I ain't lying. I have kids you want me to teach them how to get their willy wet. If I was 25 years old and I didn't look like Cyclops, and I couldn't get my dick wet, I'd kill myself. From 18 to 30, if a guy's not getting his dick wet, he might as well kill himself. And that's why you married the wrong slag, the wrong tub of shit. And you stay married for the wrong reason. I can prove to you 50% of you are an accident. Today, I can prove to you at least 50% of you are accidents. Not because you're 7 years apart from your brother or sister, that's easy. When you go back home, don't ask your mother this question. I have more reverence for moms. Ask your dad, when you're looking him in the eye, preferably after a drink, if he'll have a drink with you, Dad, am I an accident? And this will be his answer. I'll bet my entire net worth. Look at how you turned out. Do you think you've made your parents proud? Who the fuck are you? What are you smoking? Give me some of that shit. I want to get high too. In the infamous words of Bruce the Whipple, if you don't ask, you don't get. That's a nice way of saying it. And the guys, 98% of Zuckerberg, Gates, Elon Musk, Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, are all like you. They're introverts. 98% of my successful mentees are introverts. He's not an introvert. He's not an introvert. But 98% of my successful mentees are introverts. They wouldn't say shit if it was in their mouth. Does that translate? Somebody put a turd in your mouth. Caca. Feces. Follow me? You wouldn't say shit if it was in your mouth. You'd say, oh, pardon me, I have to go. Oh, do not forsake me, oh, Corona. A stiff drink and a good fucking kill everybody in this motherfucking room, except me. That's where, man, now I used to have all these stats, which are true. John Hopkins, which is now keeping track of all the deaths, right, for the world corona, John Hopkins, the hospital. And in 1986, a man shaking hands had 116 pounds per pressure per square inch. A man. A woman had 96. 86. Fast forward to 2016. A man's got 88 and a woman's got 109. Testosterone levels, I'm an anomaly. I'm like a cyclops or something. Testosterone levels in men have dropped 40% in the last 100 years. Brian Rose calls me a Neanderthal. Well, maybe I am. I have an extra rib. I have the Neanderthal 13th extra rib. My dad had the 13th extra rib. We don't know what his dad had because his dad died before he was born. I should exhume his fucking body just to find out. But more importantly, the Neanderthal had a bigger brain than Homo sapien. It was 20% bigger. So maybe I am, and I have a big head. So maybe I am. See, part of my job is to pull out the caveman in you. Back in the old days, caveman days, a guy is going by with a good-looking woman. You like the woman? Boom! Hit the guy in the head with a fucking club, drag her off, right? Right? What happened? We got refined. And now it's pathetic. Now it's sickening to me. Guys my age don't understand. They don't understand how, and it all started in my judgment with a book called I'm Okay, You're Okay, written by a guy named Albert Stein, a psychiatrist in 1968, was the beginning of the end. And that book says, whatever you do is okay, and whatever I do is okay, cha-cha-cha. On my super success test, on my website, the first or second question is, if somebody came in and spit in your wife's face, what would you do? I thought this question was a slam dunk. I would have bet my testicles, both testicles, that I knew how you kids would answer. And there's three choices, one of which is you pick up a stick and beat the guy to death, which is my answer. And your answer is I try to ascertain what kind of day he was having. If he was having a bad day or not. Now, the guy just spit in your wife's face. What the fuck the kind of day he's having has anything to do with anything. But that's why it's even easier for you. Because you don't have to hit anybody. Well, some of the people you should hit, but I'm not promoting that. You don't even have to hit it. All you have to do is follow the steps. And he says it's easy. It is easy. And whether you were mentored for me for a year or not had nothing to do with your success. And ultimately, we went 12 months, 10 months, and then the last one we had a mentor program for 2 months. And then I realized, in some regards, the mentor program was slowing you down. You don't need me. But his comments about chairman is 100% spot on. Somebody on that fucking board, and he didn't even explain right. He's got other board members, and because they don't know what they're doing. God, how fucking plain can it be? When I say these kids, and I love all these kids, don't know, have a fucking clue. Some of them get the templates mixed up. Some of you send out the templates with the old names on them. I swear to you. Because there's a thing called self-sabotaging activity. And as successful as these templates are, I'm going to show in your mind, I'm going to show Peña that I can fuck this up. I fucked everything up all my life. Any questions about Gerard? Good kid. Well, he's 46 years old. He's a kid. He's older than some of you, but he's a good kid. Okay, nothing about Gerard. Oh, when they closed down, remember a lot of brand names are closing. I tried to buy Brooks Brothers a few weeks ago. I wanted to buy the brand and change it. I wanted to buy the New York, London, and Los Angeles Hallmark stores and turn them into QLA stores. But one guy bought them all up. I was surprised when the Italian billionaire sold off the Brooks Brothers name. But the theory is, even though they've been making suits for 200 years for presidents of the United States, there are not going to be that many suits sold anymore. So they're trying to change around brand imaging. Most of the meetings, well, you're not going to have meetings in person right away, but most of the meetings you will go to, you will be the only person in a suit. The only. And they will spend the first 15 to 30 minutes apologizing for looking like trash. Now, this is not from one of his pet hospitals, but now animals supposedly transmit corona, not gorillas, although they thought gorillas because there's only one gene or something between us and him, but it's not. It's cats. I don't know why that is. But by the way, a banana has 50% of the same DNA we have. A banana. You don't even have to have the DNA of a banana. 50%. Many of you have been caught in the labyrinth of personal development. That's a maze. Some of you will stay in the labyrinth of personal development because you can't help yourself. Because the personal development sells hope. Hope springs eternal. Basically, Homo sapien is an optimistic, they're not a race. Is Homo sapien a race? No. What are they? Species, thank you. Personal development teaches that hope as a tactic. My tactic is to hit him in the fucking head with a club. And it teaches how to action fake. You have faked progress all your lives till you discovered QLA. And the reason why personal development, and you've heard how personal development got started, but I'm not going to go through the story, but as a scam, but it's not measurable. You can't measure. How can you measure you feel better? And when you start a meeting, I feel good about the meeting. I feel good about the phone call. I've never heard any high-performance person of the people I was privileged to do business with and work under that ever said they felt good about anything. The only thing they feel good about is decimals in a bank account, because what gets measured gets accomplished. If your good feeling cannot translate into money, who gives a shit? You all know people that say, oh, I feel good about this. Now, if it's Elon Musk saying he felt good about it, then I take some heed to it. But unless it translates into dollars and cents, pounds and pence, My kid brother and I discussed World War II, Korean War, about our dad, a vet, vis-a-vis Corona. Though he would certainly be in the most dangerous age group, he was in his early 90s when he passed, we both laughed when we thought of him all coroned up. We both agreed in his 90s he would not give a shit, of course. We're not making light of Corona. Okay? I can't get Corona. No fucking way. I'm going through all this shit for you. Because I have an obligation. I may be a carrier. Some people are carriers. So we go through the Corona mystique. But basically, I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you. Oh, America in 1944 facing almost certain death of Normandy landing. Americans in 2020 facing 99.9% survival rate. That's the difference in the world today. Now, a lot of the guys tell you to read books, right? Now, am I the only one that knows this? Any man who reads too much and uses his own brain too little falls into the lazy habit of thinking. Einstein only wanted you to take action. Now, how come nobody else says this? Happens to be true. How many of you went to the Dalai Lama's 80th birthday? Nobody. I asked a question. Nobody ever. Some of my mentees did. And during his speech, and at the end, the last 2 hours, he's pitching for money. The Dalai. And his last two sentences, which I think are going to come up in a few slides, meditation is terrific. Prayer is terrific. And he names 2 or 3 other things, but taking action is the only thing that gets anything done. Some of you in this room meditate. I feel sorry for you. I've not meditated 1 microsecond my whole life. High expectations are the key to everything. Remember I said you have to frame it with expectations. You have to frame the seller's expectations. You have to frame the banker's expectations. You have to frame the board's expectations, the lawyer's expectations, the accountant's expectations. Then they're singing to your hymn. Not like, oh, do not forsake me, O Corona. They're singing to your hymn. But you set the expectations. And the challenge is because your leadership skills are non-existent, you've never set the expectations to anybody.